After 2 seasons of 2- and 3-day multi-event programs, Speedway management decides for 1911 to present just one major event paying a huge purse. Seeking something lasting around 7 hours, they calculate that an attractive-sounding 500 miles could be run off in that time. On the morning of May 30th, 1911, Memorial Day, 40 cars line up for the start of the very first Indianapolis 500. Virtually all of them are stripped-down versions of passenger cars currently being sold to the public. The eventual winner, however, has been built strictly for competition. Following complaints that the locally built single-seat streamlined Marmon Wasp has no provisions for carrying the generally accepted riding mechanic, driver-engineer Ray Haroon finds a solution. Above the cowling, he rigs up a 3-by-8-inch mirror, believed to be the very first rear-view mirror ever used on an automobile. Near the race's halfway point, he turns the wheel over to a relief driver, Cyrus Patchke, but returns for the final half and wins the very first Indianapolis 500 in a time of 6 hours, 42 minutes at an average speed of 74.602 miles per hour. Shortly after time trials begin, Howdy Wilcox goes out to become the first to turn a qualifying lap in excess of 100 miles an hour. 6 others accomplish this after him, including Frenchman René Thomas, who sits on the pole at 104.78 miles per hour. Wilcox starts second and wins the race, the first to be held after World War I. Tommy Milton is the first driver to win for a second time. A further reduction in maximum cubic inch displacement to only 122 has also led to riding mechanics no longer being mandatory. 23 of the 24 cars which line up on race day are single-seaters. The race is by far the most competitive to date, with 6 drivers swapping the lead 28 times, a record which will not be beaten until 1960. Milton does not complete the distance alone. His sideline teammate, 1919 winner Howdy Wilcox, takes over 48 laps during the race, while Milton receives attention to his blistered hands and pinched feet. In spite of taking 21 laps of relief from Norman Batten while he gets his badly blistered hands bandaged, Peter DiPaolo, driving a supercharged Duesenberg, is the first to win in under 5 hours, averaging 101.127 miles per hour. His elapsed time of 4 hours 56 minutes, 39.46 seconds is less than Ray Haroon's 1911 winning time by an hour and 3/4. It seems like a movie script. Harry Hartz, recovering from injuries, plans to drive his own car right up until the first qualifying day. He makes an incomplete attempt and then turns the car over to 24-year-old Billy Arnold, who qualifies for the pole. Arnold leads all but the first 2 laps, wins by 5 laps, and is the first to average 100 miles an hour without the aid of a relief driver. His record of leading 198 out of 200 laps in the same race has never been broken, and probably will stand forever. Not only is Louis Meyer the first driver to win the 500 for a 3rd time, but he is also involved in the beginning of 3 major Indianapolis Motor Speedway traditions. He is the first to be presented with the keys to the pace car, a Packard. It is the first year for the Borg-Warner Trophy, and he unknowingly begins a tradition by being photographed in Victory Lane drinking what appears to be regular milk. It is actually buttermilk. Milk industry executives seize upon the opportunity and make sure that milk is handed to the winner for the next several years. Milk disappears from the victory celebration between 1947 and 1955, but in 1956 it returns for good. Wilbur Shaw is the first driver to win the 500 in consecutive years. Driving the same imported Italian Maserati he steered to victory in 1939, the diminutive and dynamic Shaw joins Louis Meyer as a three-time winner of the 500, while also becoming the first ever to win in consecutive years. With 3 firsts and 3 seconds since 1933, Shaw now has the best record of any 500 driver. The very next year, Shaw appears well on his way to winning for a third consecutive year and a record 4th overall, but he suffers a back injury when a collapsed right wheel sends him into the wall while he is leading at the 3/4 mark. It turns out to be his final race. The entry of America into World War II will bring racing to a halt for 4 years, after which Shaw will play a major role in saving the speedway from extinction. Just 6 months after Terre Haute businessman Tony Holman has purchased the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which has been sadly neglected due to 4 years of inactivity during World War II, the 500-mile race is revived. Tony goes into the event concerned that interest may have diminished in the interim. On the contrary, a massive crowd shows up and gigantic traffic jams persist long after the race has started. The race is a huge success, the Holman era has begun, and it is George Robson who pulls into victory lane. Freddie Agabasian causes a major upset by winning the pole and upping the single-lap qualifying mark to 139.104 miles an hour, his power plant being a diesel. The Cummins Engine Company of nearby Columbus, Indiana, has placed one of its hefty 401 cubic inch truck engines laid on its side into a low-slung Curtiss chassis and boosted it with an ingenious implement which, while not listed as such at the time, is the track's first ever turbocharger. The latter turns out to be the car's undoing. Because the inlet has inadvisably been placed down in front of the engine and directly behind the grille, it becomes blocked with rubber particles and causes the engine to overheat after 71 laps. Bill Vukovich is only 9 laps away from winning the 500 with an offset Curtiss Offenhauser, which he himself has nicknamed the Roadster, when the steering mechanism fails. Into the lead and onto victory sweeps the dirt track car of Troy Ruttman, who, at only 22, becomes the youngest ever winner of the 500. Jim Rathman and defending winner Roger Ward engage in the greatest sustained two-man battle the race has ever seen. There are a record 29 lead changes, of which 14 are between these two alone during the entire second half. They are never any more than a few feet apart from each other and constantly swapping the lead until a handful of laps from the end when Ward sees white cords beginning to show through his right front tire. Rather than pit, the KG veteran slows down and nurses his car home to second. Rathman, already a 3-time runner-up, finally wins and raises the 500-mile race record to 138.767 miles per hour. Another closely contested event sees the lead swapped 20 times among 7 drivers. After the third and presumably final pit stop, Eddie Sachs is confounded by the fact that A.J. Foyt, with whom he has thus far been evenly matched, is now able to pull away. Unbeknownst to either driver, Foyt's refueling mechanism has malfunctioned on a recent stop, and he has received no fuel. Running light, he's able to pull away. Only 16 laps from the end, Foyt comes in for an emergency splash and go, and Sachs finds himself with a 30-second lead. But the effort to try and keep up has placed undue wear on his tires, and with only 3 laps remaining, Sachs comes in to change the right rear. He takes the checkered flag 8.28 seconds after 26-year-old Foyt has scored his first of 4 victories. The popular Novi racing cars have not been in the lineup for 5 years. Now owned by Andy Granatelli, history is made when 3 Novis are qualified for the first time. Jim Hurtubise is starting second. The supercharger is slow to respond at the green flag, and he falls to 7th going into the first turn. Coming out of the 4th turn on lap 1, Hurtubise has moved all the way back up to 2nd behind pole sitter Parnelli Jones, his close friend. The crowd rises to its feet when Hurtubise pulls to the inside, unleashes the power of the Novi, and roars past Parnelli to lead lap 1. The next time around, Parnelli is leading again, but here comes Herc. He pulls exactly the same maneuver and passes Parnelli once more, but this time not until after crossing the start-finish line. Parnelli regains command soon after, and Jim will eventually drop out. But the fans will never forget those opening laps. Scotland's Jim Clark leads 190 of the 200 laps in a Ford-powered Lotus and becomes the first driver to win in a rear-engine car. His average speed of 150.686 miles an hour for 500 miles is faster than Parnelli Jones' pole speed of just 3 years earlier. And in 1966, with a healthy lead, Scottish rookie Jackie Stewart appears to have the race won when he slows to a halt at the north end of the track with only 9 laps remaining. Under the mistaken impression that he can still be classed as the finisher by pushing his car across the line, as is the rule in Europe at that time, he climbs out and begins the task. After an official explains that he does not need to do that here, Jackie then abandons the car and walks in, smiling and waving to acknowledge a huge ovation from the crowd. It turns out that the oil pressure had dropped to 0, and the thoughtful Jackie was merely trying to save his car owner, John Meekham, the expense of a blown engine. Fellow Grand Prix driver and teammate Graham Hill wins the race, but Jackie is voted Rookie of the Year. The long-anticipated participation of a turbine-powered car finally becomes a reality, and it almost wins the first time out. Turbines have been entered before, but none has ever qualified. Driving a revolutionary four-wheel drive vehicle powered by a Pratt & Whitney gas turbine helicopter engine, Parnelli Jones leads all but 25 of the first 196 laps, only to glide to a halt near the entrance to the pits. A bearing in the rear end has failed, so that power can no longer be delivered to the track. This allows A.J. Foyt to take the lead, and just moments before he is due to come around to take the checkered flag, a multi-car accident develops on the main straight. Incredibly, Foyt has already had a premonition that something might happen, and has taken the precaution of slowing down. He picks his way through the debris, and then gears up for the final few yards, past the still-stunned Parnelli Jones and his Andy Granatelli crew. Although bolt-on rear wings are not permitted, and according to the official wording, any aerodynamic device must be an integral part of the body, Team McLaren has cleverly found a way to mold a rear wing into the engine cover. Phenomenal downforce is achieved, and during practice, Mark Donohue, driving a Roger Penske-owned McLaren, reaches almost 181 miles an hour, approximately 10 miles an hour faster than the official record. Naturally, he is considered a shoo-in for the pole, But while his 4-lap qualifying average of 177.087 miles per hour breaks the old record by a considerable margin, it is far below what was anticipated. Car after car fails to knock Donohue from the pole until Peter Revson, driving for the McLaren team, goes out and records 178.696 miles per hour for 4 laps and 179.354 for 1. Donohue is knocked from the pole, and the huge crowd realizes it has witnessed a major upset. Bolt-on rear wings are allowed for the first time in 1972, and qualifying records over a 2-year period skyrocket by an incredible 26 miles an hour. Peter Revson's 1971 marks are broken several times. Bobby Unser finally stuns everybody with 195.940 miles per hour for 4 laps, and for 1 lap, 196.678. '77 sees many barriers broken. Tom Snever is the first driver to officially lap in excess of 200 miles an hour. Gordon Johncock, A.J. Foyt, Mario Andretti, and Johnny Rutherford have all managed it unofficially on the recently repaved track, but none can achieve it in qualifications. Snever's opening lap is 200.401 miles per hour. Lap 2 is even faster. On laps 3 and 4, the speed drops below 200, but Snever has given the sun-baked crowd what it came for. Janet Guthrie becomes the first female driver to qualify for the 500. Her 4-lap speed of 188.403 miles an hour on the final qualifying day is the fastest turn by any driver on the entire second weekend of time trials. On race day, Gordon Johncock breaks a crankshaft with only 16 laps remaining, and into the lead sweeps A.J. Foyt, who goes on to become the first driver ever to win the 500 for a 4th time. Once the Victory Circle celebrations have concluded and Foyt prepares to be driven around the track on a lap of honor in the pace car, he invites Speedway owner Tony Holman to ride with him. Masses of people run out onto the track surface to greet them as they come around. It is an extremely poignant moment, for not only has Tony never done this before, it is the last time most people will ever see him. He passes away on October the 27th at the age of 76. Gordon Johncock leads Rick Mears by just a couple of car lengths when Mears ducks in for his final scheduled pit stop at lap 183. His Penske crew has him away in 18 seconds. Johncock comes in at lap 186, and his Patrick crew pulls a major coup by giving Johncock only the amount of fuel they believe he will need to finish. They have him away in 13 seconds. The Penske crew is stunned. At lap 188, Mears finds himself 11 seconds in arrears. It is a virtuoso performance as Mears spends the next several laps slicing away at the disadvantage. The deficit is cut from 7.9 seconds at lap 192 to 6.4 at 193, 4.6 at 195, 3 seconds at 196, and a mere 2 at 197. As the two drivers head for the white flag, Mears is drawing alongside Johncock.
Mears on the inside. Johncock. Mears forced down the little line. Run! Johncock cuts him off.
He loses many yards but remounts his challenge and comes up short at the checkered flag by only 16/100ths of a second.
Johncock. Mears makes a try. Johncock wins it by less than 1/10 of a second.
It's the closest finish so far, beating the previous record margin of 2.16 seconds, which has stood since 1937.
Danny Sullivan has Mario Andretti in his sights in 4.
Sullivan dives low through turn 1 on lap 120 to grab the lead from Mario Andretti.
It's a drag race down the main stretch.
Sullivan, it is Danny Sullivan gets him. No, he's twirling. No, he's spinning. Danny Sullivan spins.
Absolutely incredible.
He spins around 1¼ times across the south short chute as Andretti dives to the inside to successfully avert a collision. Miraculously, Sullivan completely avoids hitting the wall, recovers from the spin, and then makes his way around to the pits for a change of tires. None of the drivers can believe what they've seen, and tire engineers are amazed to discover the tires bear no flat spots. 20 laps later, Sullivan passes Andretti again in exactly the same place, and this time is successful. He is famously the first ever to spin and win. Following a late race caution, Al Unser Jr. leads Scott Goodyear on a restart at lap 194, and many are surprised to see the tenacious Goodyear, who started 33rd, hang with the leader.
He's close to within